Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld, now with zero trans fat. Here's what's coming up. Should we refuse the refugees or just let in the really nice ones? A question I refuse to answer until I get my chocolate milk. Plus, my interview with our very next president, Lindsey Graham. How should we respond to ISIS? I bet he has an answer, and if he doesn't, I'll take his wine away. And later, I'll show you what really happened on my book tour. It's pretty exciting. For one, I met some of the sexiest people in the country. But you already knew that, didn't you? Look at that one. Let's get started, America. I'm playing racquetball later with my good friend Clive Owen.
But I did think this was demeaning and silly and not serious.
It is hot garbage quite often.
It's a little filthy, a little raunchy.
And now he's embarrassed again, because I think this is embarrassing.
Every indication is that he is dry and possibly a sociopath.
So somehow the terror debate has now morphed into a refugee debate, as one side delights in calling you names if you don't willingly embrace everyone. So if you're the least bit worried about getting killed by a terrorist who sneaks in, you're probably a bigot or at least a fraidy cat.
Apparently they're scared of widows and orphans coming into the United States of America as part of our tradition of compassion. Now, first they were worried about the press being too tough on them during debates. Now they're worried about 3-year-old orphans. That doesn't sound very tough to me.
Screw this petulant prince. If he cannot recognize the changing face of terror, that you only need a few bad apples to create mayhem, then he's no good for us. And his belief that a strong reaction feeds more terror, that's bizarre. So if you're a victim of a home invasion, somehow buying locks will encourage more home invasions? That makes no sense to me. So here's how I look at it. America accepting refugees, it's like a relationship that's moving too fast. Syria is the complicated love interest who wants a commitment. But we, as a country, we're a mess, and because of that, we're just not ready for a serious commitment. It's not you, refugees. It's us. After Paris, we don't trust our system to protect us either. And so we just want to slow this whole thing down and maybe get to know you better. But in the meantime, we're happy to help you find a place to crash, maybe a safe zone in your neck of the woods, but not my place. It's a mess. There's stuff all over the place. As a nation, I need to focus on me before I can help you. So for now, I say no. But I hope we can still be good friends. And yes, you can keep my sweatshirt.
Period.
Let's welcome tonight's guests. Will he so sharp scissors list him as a job reference? He's John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor. And she's so smart, the SATs take tests about her. It's Gabriella Blum, professor of international law and human rights at Harvard University. She's the co-author of the great book, The Future of Violence. I've read it twice. And he's more shocking than a shag carpet. Gavin McInnes, host of the Gavin McInnes Show on AnthonyCumia.com. And her first words were, make that a double. It's Joanne Nosuchinsky. All right, first I want to go to you, to Ambassador. If I have any concerns about the refugee crisis, does that mean, as President Obama suggests, that I hate orphans?
Well, obviously not. You know, the president and much of the discussion has ignored the fact that this is not our first refugee crisis. We've faced this issue many times before. For the president, who prides himself on being Mr. International Law, he's ignoring the treaty that we entered into 65 years ago in our own statutory framework. Most of the people he wants to admit don't qualify as refugees. The requirement's very clear, and that is you have to show a well-founded fear of persecution based on your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, race, ethnicity, something like that. And most of the people coming out of Syria simply don't qualify. Have they been displaced by horrible conditions in war? Yes. Does that make them eligible to be refugees? No. Now, if the president wants to bring them in on some other basis, like he just wants a couple 100,000 Syrians in the country, then let him say it. But as refugees, they don't qualify, whether they're terrorists or not.
Hey, one question before I move to Gabriella. There's something going on in Brussels, and we're pre-taping this. What do you think is happening? Do you anticipate another attack either in Brussels or somewhere else?
Well, the warnings that have been issued by Belgian authorities, by the U.S. Embassy in Brussels to U.S. citizens have been remarkably specific about the nature of the threat. So it's hard to say, obviously, at this point, but it wouldn't put past ISIS that they would try a series of attacks. Maybe this is misdirection. Maybe they just want to show they can intimidate the capital of the European Union. But I would take the threat seriously, and hopefully the authorities are ready for it.
All right. So, Gabrielle, I've raved about your book. And the thesis of your book really is that we have to look at for these non-state actors. You don't need a huge nation to destroy you. It could be one guy, a drone, and anthrax. So doesn't that lend itself to a more prudent refugee process?
Not in this case, and I disagree with Ambassador Bolton that they don't meet the test for refugees. I think that 10,000 people have become an easy target for politics of fear. We admit 50 million people a year to this country from other countries, and many of those come from visa waiver programs where they don't even need a visa to come in.
Did you say 50 or 15?
50.
50 million?
About that
20
number.
million do that visa waiver program.
And 20 million do the visa waiver program, which means they may have visited Syria or Iraq or a number of other places you wouldn't even know, and under the current law, it's not even a good reason to not admit them. Now, that's a security gap.
Now you
not the 10,000.
scared me even more.
I'm sorry.
Every time I talk to you or read something by you, I am terrified.
Stop inviting me. Number two, there's no indication that any refugee has ever committed an act of terrorism, though a couple may have used the cover of refugees. And number three, if the United States is going to tell the Syrian and Iraqi people the fight against ISIS is a joint fight, we have a common enemy, then you can't turn around and then say, we're good at bombing, but we're not good at helping you guys.
Well, you and I, we talked about this in the green room. There is evidence of a biological attack being planned. I mean, this is the nature of risk has changed the way our response should be. No?
Chemical or biological attack, yes, it's just the next step because terrorist groups compete over resources and recruits and glory, and unfortunately this is the way to obtain glory, is to be more destructive and heinous than the previous attack. So it does seem like the next step for terrorist groups, and that's why this is a real concern. Still, it doesn't answer the question, why would you deny the 10,000 refugees but admit 50 million others?
Right.
If you want to deny everyone, say it out loud, but nobody would do that because we need it for the economy.
Do you blame Snowden?
I think Snowden caused damage in the sense of the whole disclosing capabilities that I think was a very harmful thing. We see it now in the debate over encryption. There were good things about the revelations. There's no question there have been serious costs to them.
All right, let me move over to Gavin, because you actually got up, went to the airport and flew to Paris the day after the attack.
I did indeed.
And what did you do there? I saw you interview a number of people. And
I just got in arguments the entire time. I was hoarse when I came back.
Yes. What were you arguing over?
The Muslims say it was the Jews, the ones I spoke to in the north of Paris. I was too chicken to go to Les Banlieues. The hipsters, the bobos as they call them, said it was my fault. They didn't just say America. They said, this is you. I ate America.
Yeah.
And they had just eaten America because there's a burger joint on every corner there. But no one, first of all, no one mentioned guns. Even the far-right people I talked to, no one considered the possibility that they would have guns, because that whole concept has been scrubbed from the French brain. But secondly, no one considered that this was preventable, that this could have been foreseen, and that we could ever fix this problem. It was seen, honestly, as a train crash.
Or like, or as bad weather, seasonal bad weather.
A few freaks that are crazy.
Yeah.
And they're not Muslim.
Yeah.
One guy said they're not even human.
Yeah. Really?
All right, well, let's just give up then.
Well, I think the overwhelming, these attacks have something in common, and it's obviously white male privilege. I'm going to put that out there. I think that they're reacting against white male privilege or white French privilege. I don't know. Isn't there a happy medium, Joanne, where we're happy to have you here, but not right now? In terms of the refugees?
I think that there should be. I mean, from what I've heard, that the vetting process would still take a while for all of these refugees, somewhere up to a year to clear everyone. Still, I'm not entirely sure how you do that if people don't have all the paperwork that's necessary, because, well, they're refugees, they're fleeing. It's easy. It's very easy to just claim hashtag refugees welcome,
Yeah.
hashtag compassion. It's easier to say that than to face the reality that is compassion does not matter to terrorists.
Yeah.
Being fearful,
They love it.
Being fearful doesn't mean they win. They win if they come into this country and kill people here on our land. So to have concern is not to be bigoted.
Yeah. I think, I believe that it should be, if you're traveling, you know how you get your vaccinations? You should go and get a pocket Quran and memorize like 3 things just in case.
That's been said. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard people say that. And there was an attack where people did get out.
Yeah.
They were released as hostages for being able to recite verses. And that is a terrible state of affairs.
I know.
When we have to capitulate and memorize their religion to save our lives.
And that's what they want.
Why do we need these people? You said we need them for the economy. Why do we need people on welfare for the economy? I don't understand.
Well, just remember that most of the people ISIS kills are Muslims. The vast majority have been Muslims, Shiite, other Sunnis who don't buy into the Salafi tradition. It's not that they're Muslims, it's a wrong. When we pit it as a war of civilizations, we play exactly to those hands. It's factually wrong and strategically stupid.
All right, last word to you, Ambassador. What about Saudi Arabia? That's all I'm going to ask you. What about Saudi Arabia?
Well, of course, they don't want to take these people because they think many of them are terrorists, but it's not unique to Saudi Arabia. I remember during the time of the Vietnamese boat people in the late 1980s, where the United States took many in as refugees, we proposed Japan take a lot in as well. And the Japanese said to us, you know, we don't think the Vietnamese would be culturally comfortable here in Japan.
Yes.
They really ought to go to the United States. So I've heard it before.
All right. Well, thank you, Ambassador John Bolton and Gabriella Blum. See you again soon, and you can scare me some more. All right, before we go to break, it's time once again to look at some of the tougher questions facing the candidates on the 2016 campaign trail.
Coming up this week on the campaign trail 2016, Marco Rubio meets with voters in New Hampshire. But has he ever seen a UFO in person?
Yeah, when I was 4 years old. I mean, can it happen now when I'm a little older? It's like taunting me.
Plus, Hillary Clinton heads to Denver. But what does she really think about the Westminster Dog Show?
It's a national disgrace.
And finally, Donald Trump tries to maintain his lead in the polls. But does he think it's impossible for Magic Mike 3 to include Channing Tatum, Matthew McConaughey, John Hamm, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Brad Pitt, Bradley Cooper, the Hemsworth brothers, and Ryan Gosling?
You can't do it. You can't do it. Too many things involved.
Till next week on the campaign trail 2016.
Well, you're wrong, Mr. Trump. It can be done, and it would be awesome. All right, coming up, my interview with Senator Lindsey Graham. I'll show him a great new fondue recipe. Stick around. The group referred to as the contained JV team by President Obama is certainly not playing along. Why does the president keep telling the country the ISIS situation is under control when clearly their reach and threat is higher than ever? I asked Senator and 2016 presidential candidate Lindsey Graham earlier about the growing threat of ISIS and whether it's coming to America. He answered, that's how it works in an interview when you're a pro like me. Senator Graham, thank you for joining me today. I got to say, you were probably the most outspoken candidate when it came to ISIS and also predicting what might happen in the future. Does it bother you that you are right?
Yes. I wish I were wrong. It bothers me that our president is so overwhelmed by his job. In the last week, what have we learned? That President Obama's strategy is not working. He doesn't realize that the immediate threat to our homeland. He's acting as if ISIL is contained when they're not. And on our side, we've learned that some people are saying boots on the ground because they have to now. I've been saying boots on the ground for 2 years because we need to. Been to Iraq and Afghanistan and the region 35 times in the last decade. The reason I've been so worried about ISIL is I've seen them rise, and I know what they intend to do, and they intend to come here. And I have the experience to win a war we can't afford to lose, and that's why I'm running for president.
Now, do you think we're here mainly because, or we're in this bad place because we've spent the last couple of years demonizing certain programs, NSA programs, that have we portrayed them as infringing on our rights. And so now we're in a position where we have Republican candidates talking about distinguishing between different religions in terms of refugees. Aren't these two connected in some way?
Yeah, well, number one, we're here because President Obama did not follow sound military advice by leaving a residual force of 10,000 in Iraq. In 2010, Al-Qaeda in Iraq were on their knees. The surge did work. And he withdrew all of our forces. Al-Qaeda in Iraq came back and became ISIL. 3 years ago, Assad was on the ropes. The Free Syrian Army was intact. He was advised by all of his advisors to do a no-fly zone, train the Free Syrian Army when it would have mattered. He said no. So I blame Obama for the rise of ISIL, not anyone else. But on our side of the aisle, we've had people who, acting like we're fighting a crime, not a war, that want to take our ability to detect the next attack, take our intelligence community and make it dark, not realizing the only way to defend America is pick up the attack before it happens. So we go from one extreme to the other.
It seems to me the only way we get intel now is after the crime. We were able.
That's right.
Yeah, the Paris raid occurred because of the Paris attack.
Yeah, it's not a crime. Okay, I've been a military lawyer for 33 years. We're in a state of war with ISIL and other radical Islamic groups. I've got an authorization to use military force that I'll introduce the week after Thanksgiving that says we can go any place on the planet, no limits on time, geography, or means to destroy ISIL. They represent the same threat to our homeland that Al-Qaeda did after 9/11. So I want to be at war with them. They're at war with us. I want to monitor in a constitutionally sound way activities that would be picked up to prevent the next attack. I'm not trying to listen in on people's phone calls. I'm trying to gather intelligence to prevent an attack on our nation, and we have a constitutional process to do that. But I'm fighting a war, and many people on our side are fighting a crime. There's a big difference.
Yeah, how do you respond to those who say responding with rage or anger rather than policing our own Islamophobia feeds into the ISIS goal? Like anytime we respond to their attacks, somehow we're energizing them.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, number one, I'm pretty hard-ass on the war on terror because I know what these people are capable of doing. But I'm not going to follow somebody because of their religion. I'm the President of the United States is what I'm running for. We'll follow people based on their behavior. If there's a reasonable suspicion that you're doing something that threatens our security, we will monitor what happens to protect the nation. But no, we're not going to follow people because of their faith, but we are going to follow activity that could lead to an attack on our homeland and realize that we're at war. So I'm right where I need to be. I'm fighting a war within the constitutional process that we've set up a long time ago.
What's your solution, Senator, to the refugee crisis that is creating so much controversy and chaos? Essentially, the media is asking hypothetical questions to the candidates who answer and then find themselves in trouble.
Well, here's what I would do. I don't have any trouble at all saying the following. Suspend the flow of refugees until we get a vetting system we can better trust. Paris has taught us a couple of things. Number one, they can infiltrate the refugee process, but there's 20 other ways to get in America other than faking a refugee status. What I want to do is stop the reason they leave Syria. I want to get on the ground with a regional force of about 10,000 Americans and 80 or 90,000 Arabs in Turkey and go in and destroy the caliphate. I want a safe haven in Syria so they don't have to leave their country to begin with. And I'd like to send people back to Syria, stop this war before Lebanon and Jordan become a victim of it, and we get attacked here at home. There is no substitute for destroying the caliphate in Iraq and Syria. I have the experience to win this war. No one else seems to understand that we're at war and how to win it. I do.
Well, thank you, Senator. I will say this. There's nothing, I don't see anything bigoted about being concerned over safety. And I also admit that yeah.
Not at all.
No. If you're worried about your loved ones, that doesn't make you a racist. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for joining us.
Not at all.
Coming up, campus crybabies, behind the scenes of my book tour. That's fun. And the return of Gregmail. If you leave now, you're probably a racist Wiccan who hates children. Quick impression time. Who are these cats imitating? Obviously, they're imitating the many university presidents and provosts.
Good job.
Provosts?
Yeah, sure.
We're scared to death of punks who claim their schools aren't safe spaces. Last week at Dartmouth, protesters disrupted students cramming for exams at the library.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
Wow. There are reports that the protesters shouted obscenities at these studying bystanders. Things like F you filthy white Fs. Clever stuff, if you ask me, and you did. So when the vice provost for student affairs got wind of this, she told those protesters a thing or two. Things like, I'm sorry, and you're right, and they're wrong.
So, I'm very sorry about all of this. The protest was a wonderful, beautiful thing. There's a whole conservative world out there that's not very nice. Everyone that called our office today and asked, we told them how it really went down.
So that caused a fuss, and she apologized then to conservatives. But look, lady, don't apologize to me. Stand up for the kids who'll probably fail their exams because they couldn't study, or remind the safe spacers that the library is also a quiet place. No, it's much easier to give in. You're as predictable as a cat with a toaster. We need to ban those toasters. All right, we're back with our guest. Plus, we've added two. He's so liberal, he makes Sean Penn look like a ballpoint pen. John DeVore, Internet Action Force Editor-in-Chief. And she's brainier than a bag of brains. Ooh. Our op-ed, Katherine Timpf from National Review. Kat, I'm going to go to you first.
Yes.
Pretty brave administrator there, huh? Coming out and just going right out there and not bowing.
It's disgusting what she's doing. Basically, what's right and what's wrong doesn't matter. As soon as someone says you hurt my feelings, automatically the person whose feelings got hurt is right. You can't do that in a library. You can't run around screaming in a library.
No.
That's not safe.
No, it's
right? What
not.
is the safe spaces? Safe. The Mizzou kids saying no media, safe space, and they really expect that to work. They really expect that to work. That'd be like if I go into a restaurant and said, I understand that you're saying these tables are full, but this restaurant's my safe space. Everyone has to leave.
I'm actually going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody who lives in New York knows what a library is for, it's for transients masturbating,
right.
Not for shouting or even reading, for that matter.
They have to do it quietly.
They have to do it quietly,
Yes.
and not in my safe space.
Oh, gosh.
All right, John DeVore.
Yes.
I want you to defend these students in a kind of failed left-wing way that you might.
As a liberal intellectual, Greg,
Yes.
I'm going to do my best to dumb this down for you so you understand.
Oh, thank you.
I support these kids. This is what you're supposed to do in college. You're supposed to, challenge the status quo and protest and express yourself. That's what the whole
But they're
point of this
expressing
is.
against expression, John.
Well, that's fine. And
They're saying they don't want what you just said.
if you're lucky, they'll keep it up and disappear up their own.
That is true.
And then everything. But until then, that's what college is supposed to be. It is what they're supposed to be. And then one day they can grow up to be all like us.
Are you single?
It's complicated, Greg.
Well, I'm just wondering if you're saying this in order to score with college kids.
I hadn't thought of that.
Because you
keep
look like that
protesting.
type. You look like a liberal professor who says these things, hoping that maybe.
And you'll discuss it further in your office.
I look like someone that wants to help the hot youth.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
That's true.
The hot troubled youth. Gavin, is it too late to fix this?
Yes. Burn them to the ground. Rush Limbaugh was right. They're done. What happened is the free market is going through a state of flux here that broke. They got so many customers by diluting the quality that now it's $60K in debt to get stupider than when you went in. So why bother going in? We can't. What are we going to do? Make it better again?
Give in. I say give in, Joanne. Give
and
in.
What would that entail?
Tell them a sanctuary. It's a sanctuary. That means all police leaves, no security, no regimented structure. Let the, what do you call it, the lunatics run the asylum.
That's happened.
But then you're going to get a real protest of the students who are paying all of that money, like you said, to attend these institutions saying, I want my education, and this is just screwing everything up. It's muddying these waters, and I deserve more than that.
But that's the good, that's when the parents realize they can't pay for this. Once the parents say, what am I doing? And then they start looking for real colleges to send their kids to rather than this garbage. But I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I like saying that. You know it's going to get worse before. That's why I wish I was a doctor. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's a lie because it never gets any better. This theater, excuse me, is a small-scale version of what's playing globally. I believe that you have the intolerant demands of a faction versus the cowardly, crumbling liberal traditions. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yep.
Doesn't it?
What does it sound like?
I'm not going to make the inference. I'm just saying, doesn't it sound familiar? An intolerant faction demanding and watching the liberal traditions that have been successful and effective acquiesce.
Maybe what this is a metaphor for our times, which is nothing but bubbles of people telling themselves what they want to hear then.
All right.
And that is not a liberal problem, essentially. That is all media. That is all...
Oh, blame everybody.
Well, she said in her speech, she goes, a lot of conservatives are not nice. What's the matter with being not nice?
Yeah.
It's like mean people suck has become a political doctrine.
No, I think it can be very helpful to be mean. I think that, oh, he's so nice is what you say about something or someone that doesn't really have anything else to offer.
You don't want to, you never want to date a nice person.
Oh, he's nice. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that means bad breath.
Means bad breath, ugly, overweight.
I'm a nice person.
And look at your love life. It's complicated.
And you're an idiot.
Yes, okay.
At least I get laid.
Wow. You don't hear that on Meet the Press. Okay. You don't. I watch Meet the Press. Don't get me wrong, at the gym, sometimes shirtless.
Wow.
Yeah. Time to take a break. Up next, I'll show you what happened on my book tour. If you leave now, you'll never see the inside of the bus or what happened in the jacuzzi. We actually had to call it industrial cleaner. Damn chilly.
Is worrying about the future stressing out your present?
Well, leave those fears in the past with the help of Millennial fortune tellers. Oh, my crystal ball says it's going to snow.
My tarot cards say she's right.
Okay, those are just playing cards.
That's just a snow globe.
Touché.
For 7 payments of $77, we'll answer all your questions with questionable certainty.
We'll use tools like horoscopes, quantum physics, positive affirmations, and predictions.
We'll ask you way too many personal questions and then judge you for your answers.
For an extra $700, we'll just tell you anything you want to hear.
We can already tell that you're going to call us, so why don't you just do it now?
Yes, your sweaty palms are in good hands.
I don't want to touch sweaty hands. Maybe you already have.
Earlier this month, I had the privilege of meeting thousands of fans while on tour for my new book, How to Be Right. It's still on sale wherever books are sold, Gavin. Needless to say, it was a blast, and I can't thank everyone enough for coming out. You're the reason I get to do this stuff for a living. Wow. Anyway, on our way through Kentucky and Indiana, I invited a camera crew and one of our producers, Tom O'Connor, to tag along.
Thanks, Greg. We're really excited that you invited us to join you on the tour because, frankly, everyone back at the office didn't think it was real. Apparently it is, but did you really need all that?
You know, we're just minutes away from another signing. A lot of people ask me, do I have any rituals before I do a signing? Well, I sign with my right hand. But what about this hand? So obviously this hand is getting stronger. This hand is doing nothing. So what do you do with this hand? Well, before each signing, I do little hand push-ups with my left hand just to get it in shape. Signing books, gonna sign some books. Where am I? Got my bananas. See, we're sneaking up on the last guy in line. What are you doing here? Is there anybody special?
Oh, no, there isn't. I'm sorry.
There's some dude with a bus out there.
I know.
He's parked in the fire lane. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Would you like a banana?
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a special banana. You'll get it signed. There you go.
Greg, hey.
How are you? Good to see you again. It's been so long. It really has. How you doing? You're not allowed to look at me while I'm signing. I get very self-conscious.
So you just met Greg. Was it everything you hoped for or not so much?
We told him we wanted to be home in time for the 5,
And what did he say?
that it wouldn't be as good.
Anything about Greg that surprised you when you met him today?
He's actually a lot more handsome in person than he is on TV.
Tell me about it.
Just don't tell my husband.
So you got to meet Greg. How was it?
It was wonderful. He gave me a banana and he signed my banana. Is that not awesome?
What a guy. When you got up this morning, you had no idea Greg would give you a signed banana.
No, I'm the luckiest woman in the world.
Has anyone ever given you a signed piece of fruit?
No.
First time for everything. So, we're finally on the bus. Is there anything that surprises you when you meet the fans on these tours?
I am surprised that they think I'm good.
Greg, I love you.
I love you too.
Every day.
I love you more than you know.
At 5 o'clock, they announce your name. I scream, I love you, Greg. My husband thinks I'm crazy.
Well, the people are really, really sweet. Very nice, and they keep bringing me gifts.
You'll never guess what it is.
I hope it's expensive red wine.
You guessed that? Oh my gosh.
You know what else? She gave me bourbon balls, which I thought for the longest time was a medical condition.
I had that in '88.
Doctor, I have bourbon balls. Get in here right away.
Who has a better job at Fox? Well, I can think of one person.
I know the guy who...
There's only one person.
Yeah, in Florida. What's his name?
Phil Keating.
Phil Keating has a great job.
But in sexy South Beach, what else? A sexy solution.
You have the second best job at Fox.
Yeah, I think I do. It's great. I get to sit next to Dana Perino across from Kimberly Guilfoyle. That's pretty good. I am Archie. I have Betty and Veronica.
Where's Kimberly and Dana?
Only men ask that question. No women go, where's Kimberly? It's always men of a certain age. See you later. Hello.
Do you ever wish you wrote the books at 25 instead of 50 so you could have had that type of tour?
Oh, you mean like
the bad tour?
The bad tour.
Motley Crue version of the book tour?
Yeah. No, because I will tell you what, if whatever book I wrote at 25 would be terrible.
Terrible.
And also, if I wrote a book that was successful at 25, I would be the world's biggest now.
Has there been any wackos?
This has been wacko-free. There have been wackos before. It's always the last stop, and then some guy shows up dressed as a clown, and he's holding up 6 pounds of raw meat.
I'm sorry about that, by the way.
Yeah.
I was just a fan. Thank you for hiring me.
That's how we met. Ah, memories. And by the way, save that banana, ma'am. It'll be worth something in a few years, and it'll smell great. Time to take a break. Up next, Joanne's got some important Black Friday tips you won't want to miss. Look at her. How delightful. Here. It's just 5 short days away, and I can't wait. Yeah, I'm finally having a third arm attached. Should make folding laundry a breeze. But also, Black Friday is this week. Here with some tips to survive the madness is our very own Joanne Nosuchinsky.
Thanks, Greg. While many say Thanksgiving is their favorite holiday, real patriots prefer Black Friday because there's nothing more American than spending money you don't have on things you don't need. Now, I understand not every shopper can be as seasoned as myself at seasonal shopping, so I've put together a set of rules that will help even the most novice shopper make out like a pro. Let's begin. 1, honor the day. Black Friday shopping is to be done on Friday, not Thursday, not Monday, but Friday. And no online purchases. They're not only lazy, but undermine the importance of hard-working retail employees. 2, wake up early. Getting up before the sun guarantees you'll score doorbuster deals and special giveaways. It will be hard, but it will be worth it. Word of advice, coffee and Cinnabon will help ease the feelings of absolute agony. 3, do your research. Map out your mall. Take stock of which stores you want to hit first by their corresponding sale times. Also, avoid Santa's Village if you ever want to have children one day. 4, shop selfishly. While stores are decorated for the holidays, Black Friday is not for purchasing Christmas gifts. That's what Christmas Eve is for. Your hard-earned money should be spent on you alone, because it's very important to treat yourself. 5, big purchases first. You're going to want to drop some of those purchases off to your car before lunch, so you might as well get the big stuff out of the way. Besides, there's nothing quite like the joy of waving off a parking lot shark who thinks you're heading home. As if. 6, lunch before noon with cocktails. You've been up at it for hours, so you need some sustenance to keep shopping and some liquid courage to keep spending. And if a mom looks at you with judgy eyes for drinking before noon, she's just jealous. So drink another for her. 7, impulse purchase. Do you need it? No. But you must buy at least one item your normally frugal mind would reason you out of. There is no fun in function. And finally, 8, tally it up. Keep all receipts and add up how much you spent and saved. Savings should be the larger number justifying the entire ordeal. By following these rules, you too can become a great shopper and a great American. Choose Black Friday. Back to you, Greg.
There is fun in function. It's the first 3 letters.
Yeah, I don't spell. That's what spell check is for. But, you know, fun isn't, functional things aren't fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to point that out.
Will you be shopping, Greg?
No, I find this to be a prehistoric ritual, like a divining rods used to find water during a drought. You just go turn on a faucet. That's called online.
I hate shopping.
You hate shopping?
I hate shopping. I buy everything on the internet.
Shopping hates you, Kat.
Good. Oh, it's great. That's great. Because it's the worst. There's people everywhere. And then this is going shopping on the day when you know there's going to be the most people there.
Yeah, you hate
They're going to be all... Yeah, kind of. I like about 4 or 5
Yeah, that's good. That's all you need, 4 or 5 people. Do you even shop, Gavin?
I shop for cigarettes. That's about it.
What's wrong with you? That's amazing.
He's fine.
You can also catch a cold from all the diseased shoppers there.
Yeah. John?
I love to shop because I'm a good American.
Ah, that's good.
But let's
right.
But let's face it, we're moving to a Christmas-based economy, so every day is going to be Black Friday for the rest. That's the only way we can keep going.
Every day is Black Friday. Black Friday matters. All right. Joanne, as usual, I feel like I learned so much, and yet nothing at all. So thank you, I guess.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to take a break. Greg's Mail up next.
It's time for Greg Mail. The address is gregmail@foxnews.com. I read, he answers, then we all dance in an awkward circle. Here we go. All right, Walter leads things off. Which Republican candidate do you think is the most persuasively correct?
He's obviously referring to my book, How to Be Right, or How to Be Persuasively Correct. I would say, off the top of my head, without thinking, I would say Chris Christie and Marco Rubio, and it'd be like if they ran together, it would be like the number 10. Because you'd have Marco Rubio who's skinny, and you'd have a little, yeah. And they're both complement each other. Tough on national security and very, very articulate.
All right.
Sorry.
What about Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz
naming the 5 problems with the debate in perfect consecutive order, in little sound bites, and then boom, nailing the guy.
There's something opportunistic about him. I got to move on.
Okay. This one's from Paul Kendrick. I don't watch your show because of your dazzling political insights. Frankly, I find that boring. I tune in because I'm absolutely smitten with cats. Been out of the dating scene for years, so do you have any substantive suggestions that would culminate in an opportunity for me to get my mittens on this kitten?
Oh, God.
All right, so A, we know that Kat put that letter in there for a reason. But number 2, anybody that writes in to ask for a date probably hasn't bathed in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send you, Paul, her direct phone number and her home address.
I don't want his mittens on my kitten.
Yes, I think it's poetry. He's a poet.
Sexual harass poetry.
All right, we got to go.
Okay.
All right, that's it for this show. Thank you, Gavin. As always, Gabriella Blum scares the heck out of me. Ambassador John Bolton, sexy as ever. Senator Lindsey Graham, probably on his 3rd wine. John DeVore, Joanne, Katherine. I'm Greg Gutfeld, and I love